Popping up some of this video out of Iran right now as the U.S. and Iran have held 2 rounds of indirect talks, including just a couple days ago in Geneva, with no firm resolution reached at this point. As the tensions between the two continue and the U.S. builds up its military presence in the Middle East, President Trump's former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo, told Fox News that it appears the Iranian government is, quote, prepared to go down with the ship this time. This comes as Axios reports that the U.S. is closer to a potential strike on Iran than many realize. There is, as always, a lot to discuss here, so I do want to bring in Jason M. Brodsky, Policy Director at United Against Nuclear Iran. Thank you so much for being with us here this morning.
Great to be with you. Thank you.
And first off, I want to talk to you about those comments from former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. He essentially said there that Iran is ready to go down with its ship. What do you take from that?
Well, I think the Iranian regime has made the calculation that they have a greater chance of surviving as a system if they were to try to absorb a U.S. military strike, as crazy as that may sound to some in the West, than to agree to an agreement or a deal with President Trump, which would basically be regime change by agreement. So that's the calculation the Islamic Republic is likely making, and so that's why we are seeing all of these military preparations in place.
Axios also reporting here that essentially the U.S. is closer. They use the term war, but essentially the gist of it is closer to a strike there by the U.S. and Iran. Anything to take away from that report? What does that say to you overall?
I think that the United States was fundamentally dissatisfied with the performance of the Islamic Republic during the last round of negotiations in Geneva. And we are seeing a flurry of reports from U.S. and Western media outlets with sourcing from U.S. officials indicating imminent military operations and plans against the Islamic Republic to form a sort of psychological operation against the regime and to throw it off base and to make it that the military operation is coming because the Trump administration does not think the Iranian regime is being serious enough at the negotiating table. So it's meant as a way to engage in coercive diplomacy, which is what President Trump excels at.
Also important to note here, I'm sure that's going to be a topic that's mentioned at the Board of Peace meeting set to take place here in less than 30 minutes as we hear from President Trump, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, questions likely to be asked by reporters as well. Now, you talked a little bit about the U.S. and Iran and the talks that have taken place. We know that there was the latest round just 2 days ago over in Geneva. Does it appear that we are any closer to any kind of actual agreement or any progress overall between the U.S. and Iran?
I don't think that there is going to be a diplomatic outcome in this round of negotiations between the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran. There are really no happy endings with this Iranian regime in power. Diplomacy has failed for the last 4 decades because of the ideological nature of the Iranian regime. The ceiling of what Iran expects from an agreement does not match the floor as to what the U.S. expects from an agreement. So what I mean by that is the U.S. has always viewed nuclear diplomacy as the floor, not the ceiling to its engagement with the Islamic Republic, whereas the Islamic Republic has viewed it as the ceiling and not the floor. Given that mismatch in expectations, you are never going to have a durable diplomatic outcome given the ideological nature of the Islamic Republic, which is premised on being anti-America and the eradication of the state of Israel. So as long as this regime is in power, I think it's fanciful to expect diplomacy to work in a meaningful way.
Based on your expertise, want to get your take here. As we've heard from Iran's supreme leader a lot this week, went on kind of a Twitter rant, so to speak, earlier this week as the talks were underway, and had some names and some strong words there for President Trump, the U.S., that strong rhetoric from Iran's supreme leader. Does that factor into any of this and how the U.S. feels, what the U.S. does in response?
Well, I think the Iranian regime has a history of engaging in such taunts, and that has never worked out well for them. So the supreme leader wants to project strength before his domestic constituency, but at the end of the day, the United States has the power to unleash the wrath of God.